I love gamers, and I would eventually find, because I Google myself, and I have analytics that Dan set up analytics on my website because Dan made my website. I reference Dan Costalis frequently, so when I say Dan, think of the guy with the beard, with the Creative Commons logo over his head. He set up analytics for me, and once in a while I'd see like this big spike on my site and be like, what's this from? So I'd trace it back and find a YouTube video of like a Halo 2 walkthrough or like a Call of Duty thing, Team Fortress, whatever, and it would have my music in it. And because of the license and because of the way that YouTube works, and once YouTube adopted the Creative Commons model, that was okay. And that worked for both of us, because they got to do whatever they wanted, and I got to be, I don't know, a happy guy. And so, one day though, I noticed a particularly large spike on my website. I think this was actually it. I tried to trace it back, but it's sort of difficult. My site's been around for a while. And I followed it back to this YouTube video of this guy from the Netherlands, with this like sort of thick Dutch accent. He was like really arrogant, and I didn't get it at first, and this is how I would meet Athene. I don't know if anyone knows who Athene is, but he's arguably like the most famous YouTube like gamer YouTuber guy, and he's arbitrarily aggressive in a lot of his videos, but actually I watched a few of them, and I'd hear my music like in the background, and he'd be like getting super pumped, and he'd get super jacked and like yell at people. I didn't know who this was, like this. I'm just, in school, I'm doing this the whole time, and I eventually realized, I'm like, this is brilliant, and I realized how big of a following he had, and he, was an early adopter to the whole, social media experience and killing it on YouTube and everything. And I would later make the acquaintance, as I should say, of his producer and like videographer, editor guy named Reese. And Reese was like also like a character in the grand scheme of things, but he would like, tweet at me and be like, hey, I love your stuff, can we use this in the thing? And I'd be like, yeah. But Reese had a lot of followers, and Athene had a lot of followers, so their whole crowd got turned on to the stuff that I was doing because they were using it in their projects and stuff. And they were also in charge of this movement, which I think they've sort of put on the back burner to do some other stuff for like gaming for good. They went to Africa, which is awesome. They're both very good people, good, kind-hearted people. But the iPower project was basically centered around like self-development and activism, and just sort of building self-confidence, and it was very, very cool. They have a whole website dedicated to it with like a social forum and all this stuff. Lots of active users. It was very cool. And I sort of got to unravel and look over time at this empire that they had built, and it was all just because I put my music up on this website, and they needed some music for their videos. And so, I'm like looking at these guys, that's me with the glasses, they wear glasses. I'm like looking at these guys, I'm like, this is awesome. So I sort of became friends with them a little bit, and we'd like tweet banter back and forth, And then one day I get a message from Reese asking me if I wanted to do music for a documentary that they were making. And at the time it was called Project ASC, which is Athene's Scientific Cataclysm. And the whole thing was shrouded in secrecy, but basically, they said that it was a documentary about the fusion of neuroscience and metaphysics. That was what I had to go off of. I couldn't see any of it because there was a lot of research involved. They were still working out all of the graphics and everything. He showed me like little clips and bits here and there and would ask my opinion, and I'd be like, this all looks amazing. I'm not qualified to tell you that it's not. But he asked me if I wanted to do the music, and strangely, on the strength of all of these like big, like car commercial songs that I had wanted to make, he wanted me to make the music for this. And I said, yes, of course. Why not? So again, just like Ever Wondered, this was a pre-production score. I was making music for something that I couldn't see. All I had was Skype, and with a little bit of help of Dan's server, which I could send them zip files of audio over FTP, things like that. And I would come home from class and make some, and send it to him, and he'd ask for something else, he'd send me an example or something, and I'd just keep making it. And it was awesome. So I highly recommend watching this if you have 45 minutes. It's extremely cool. Watch it before you go to bed. You might fall asleep, but it's okay. It's very, very cool. So when I was making music for this, I didn't think I was going to get paid for it. I thought maybe, well, this would be cool to like throw into my portfolio. Sort of the same thing that I thought when I was doing music for Ever Wondered. Because I'm in school, I'm a music student. Build your portfolio, that's what they say, build your portfolio. And, but most importantly, I felt like I was a part of something extremely cool. Because these guys were pouring their heart and soul and a ton of time into something that they shouldn't really be doing, right? Because they have a whole shtick on YouTube, portraying themselves as these ridiculous, gamers, and suddenly they want to shift gears radically and do something they think is really meaningful, something that they believe in, and they wanted me to be a part of that. Nowhere in this was a record label or a manager or anything. It was just an email, tweet. You want to do this? Yeah. So I did, and to date, I received from them the largest donation I ever had. One morning, after the film had launched on YouTube, they didn't have to give me money for it because they told me that they wanted me to retain the rights to it, which I did. And it's up on Jamendo now, Athene's Theory of Everything original soundtrack, BYSANC. I continue to license it and make money on it today. But they just wanted to give me money to say thanks. And I welcomed it gladly. And to this day, it's like one of the coolest things I'll ever do. So it was the love of what I did, and for no other reason that I got to do that. Music was the only thing that ever really mattered to me, and it's all I wanted to do, and that's what I did, and that's what they saw, and that's why they asked. And music, in this case, was made, even though I didn't know it, for other people to use, to create, to inform, and to inspire. So, I'm at Columbia, and in the midst of all this, after I had finished the music for Athene's Theory of Everything, and I have a few things under my belt, a little bit of success, a little bit of money coming in from Jamendo, where I didn't have to have a part-time job, though I probably should have had a part-time job. Dan Costalis asked me if I wanted to come and work at the, that's Dan. That's Dan, how he usually looks. That's actually probably what he's doing right now. That's probably exactly that picture. He asked me if I wanted to come and learn how to make websites with him, because he's a web developer. And like any opportunity, yes, I responded. And so I went and joined the team and developed some skills in, basic front-end development. The first website I had made was for a French news correspondent, which I did all in WordPress. And I also did it from a completely reset blank theme. So I had to style the whole thing myself. I'm still proud of that. So I had this skill set that I was building. I was in college, I was doing this music thing, and the inevitable hit me. Luck is a terrifying thing, because good luck is out of your hands. When you have something good that's going for you and you don't know really how you got there, looking down is terrifying because you don't know how to preserve the luck that you've gotten. And that was something that sort of followed me this whole way, like, what am I doing? How is any of this happening? I'm going to college, which is something I never thought I would do in a million years. I'm getting to make music for people on projects literally around the world. What am I doing? And so my last semester of college, I hit the inevitable ceiling of getting into student loan debt. I couldn't take out any more loans, and I was right there at the finish line, and I couldn't do it. So I was like, well, I need this piece of paper. I really, really, really worked so hard for this piece of paper, devoted the last technically like the last 7 years of my life to getting this arbitrary piece of paper that said that I put in the time to do something that I believed in, And so I was like, well, why not? I went onto my website, which I had made myself, which is fairly crude, also a WordPress site, and I wanted to launch a donation campaign to raise money for school, which, as I sort of looked around and asked for advice on it, seemed like sort of a morally reprehensible thing. Because when I looked on Kickstarter, which is like that's like the first thing you go to. You go to Kickstarter. And they say in their terms, you can't use this to raise money for school. And that sort of informed me, like, okay, so this is bad. Like, I probably shouldn't be doing this. But I didn't have any choice, and I didn't really have any options. So I found this goofy little WordPress plugin that would track donations via PayPal, and it would show like a little bar. WordPress plugins, man. I love those WordPress plugins. And so I put up on my front page of my website, I told them the story I just told you. That I had, I'd worked really hard, but I was not a particularly good student, at least one that was good enough to get scholarships and all that stuff. And I put up this donation campaign and this really arbitrary list of like rewards. If you donate this much, I'll make a remix for you. A couple people actually donated enough for me to do that, and I made a few remixes for people. And one of the most popular things I have on SoundCloud is a remix I did of Feel Good Inc. by Gorillaz, which I'll actually be playing tonight if you want to go to the spot. So I had that going. My first semester starts. I set the goal at $5,000. If I could raise $5,000 over a period of 4 months, I could get onto Columbia's payment plan and pay off the bill and keep my part-time job working as a web developer to pay my rent and all the other things that go along with being a human being. So I sort of had that in the cooker and was just crossing my fingers. The other thing that I promised that I would do is try to bring Creative Commons full force to Columbia. Like really, really, really bring it hard. Some of my teachers and professors that I had knew that this was something that I did. Some of them knew what Creative Commons was, some of them didn't. Some of them that knew what Creative Commons was had heard the ASCAP definition of Creative Commons, which I'm glad a few people are laughing because it is laughable. Basically, ASCAP painted up Creative Commons in the context of music as the downfall of monetizing music. They didn't say that exactly, but they weren't very nice about it either. So I had promised that I was going to do everything that was within my power, and I even sat down with one of my professors to create basically a work study, well not a work study, a private study thing, where he was going to help me along with all of the politics and stuff that goes into bringing something to a private art school that has things like a budget. So,
hey, Mike.
yes?
Sorry to interrupt. I just want to let everybody know, remind everybody to get a drink up at 330 South Davie Street. We're going to meet, if you want to walk down there with us, you can meet us right in front of the convention center between 5:15 and 5:30. We're going to walk down there together. You literally go out the front door, hang a left, go 1 block, that's South Davie Street. Hang another left and go 2 blocks, and Spy is right on the right side. Okay, everybody get that? Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, it's all right.
Just
And
want
you
to
can
remind
follow me.
everybody, we're going to walk down. Mike is actually performing tonight at the after party, so he's going to kick some run.
Yes.
So anyway, please by all means join us. And Scotty Chacon is picking up everybody's drinks. So anyway.
Hope you guys like beer. So I'm going around to different classes at Columbia giving my Creative Commons shtick. And again, I met with a little bit of resistance, but there were 2 guys that really had my back. Doug Lofstrom, who was my old, he's not old, but he's my composition professor, and he's now actually a good friend and a collaborator. And Nate Bockham, who was the guy that sat down with me to push me through all of this stuff. And they had joined together to figure out a plan for me to graduate on time and do all this stuff. So I'm riding on people's shoulders at this point. And so when I'm giving my talks, every once in a while someone speaks up and gives the ASCAP definition of Creative Commons because everyone is still married. Not everyone, but a lot of people are still married to that model of, this is how it was for the Rolling Stones, this is how it's going to be for me. that was difficult at times. I went to the Portfolio Center at Columbia where they had made something called the Talent Pool, which is probably one of the most rich and comprehensive collections of student works that I've ever seen. The only thing that it was missing was to be able to tag things Creative Commons. And when I told them about everything that I had done and everything that Creative Commons can do for other people and everything that Creative Commons content can do for the world in general, they got on board. So that made me feel pretty good. At the end of the semester, I met my goal in excess of $5,000 and actually got over $6,000 from just 150 people around the world. It's still something that today I really can't believe, and it's something that I'll always be really grateful for, and it's something I'll never be able to articulate into words, because when you look at that bar and it fills up all the way, and you know that you're going to graduate not because your parents are rich or because you have scholarships, but because there are total strangers that believe in what you do, it's a pretty powerful thing. So in December of 2011, I graduated Columbia College Chicago with a Bachelor's of Arts in Music Composition. So the convergence of these three things, my work at school, my job that I had been nursing, and the music that I had been making into my life today, which is amazing. And all because, really, of just me being like, well, okay. Today I still make music and release it under a Creative Commons license. I live in East Lakeview in Chicago with two hilarious cats. That's Chauncey Muggins, and that's my buddy Catbert. That's my Catbert. And I still live with Karen, who was with me through this whole thing. Without her love and support, none of this would have ever happened. If for no other reason, then she would have never introduced me to Dan. So, thank you, Karen, for that. Here's some pics of East Lakeview. That's out my bedroom window. We have trees, we have water, we have more trees, and other buildings. I'm going to try to wrap this up because I only have a few minutes, but a couple months ago, or actually, it was like last fall, I got an email from a guy named Edward Buchanan. He worked for a company called Nadeo in Paris. And he asked me if I had ever wanted to make music for a racing game. Yes, I responded. And so the following 8 months would be spent making the soundtrack to Trackmania 2 Stadium and Trackmania 2 Valley. It felt like school all over again because I had my full-time job and I'd come home and be like, hey Karen, and then go upstairs into my studio and get to work, and then 11 o'clock would roll around, I'd go to bed and rinse and repeat. Weekends, nights, I had to remember that I had some friends, and sometimes I had to just close my laptop and spend some time with Karen because I can actually somewhat become a bit of a workaholic. The day that I received payment on the last invoice, I got laid off from my job. But it just goes to show that somehow making music for the right reasons, or I think, and making it available to everybody to just have and let it become a part of their life the way that they want to, some pretty interesting things can happen. And once again, the fans and the following that I've built from having all of my music be Creative Commons saved me once again. So I was going to play you this video. But that was made by a guy named Victor Hagelin. I didn't know who he was. I woke up one morning to an email with a private Vimeo link to that video, and him asking, "Is this okay?" This was like right before I got laid off from my job. He was like, "Is this okay?" I'm like, "What are you talking about? That's awesome. It's on YouTube, it's on Vimeo and everything." He's shopping it around to like film festivals and all sorts of stuff. And it just goes to show, once again, you just put it out there, you really never have any idea what's going to happen. And if you just trust people, and you believe in what you do and you believe in what they do, some pretty amazing things can happen. And once in a while I'll run into somebody that I went to high school with or that I went to Columbia with, and they'll ask me, how do you get all these gigs? How are you making money off of music? And I tell them the same thing that I told my mother 15 years ago. That what we do, this machine that we participate in, is made by other people, for other people, to use, to create, to inspire, and to inform. Once you understand the humanity of it, everything becomes pretty clear, even if it takes some time. Thank you very much. Anybody have any questions? A couple minutes, I think.
That was all pretty quick.
Cool. Awesome. What's up?
Have you pursued any further schooling, or are you just working your own work as you kind of had your own career?
Right now, I'm doing some music for some random things here and there. Somehow I haven't had to get a job yet, but I'm actually starting to think about going back and getting my teaching degree, because I really like to teach and be a real professor. So yeah.
So some of the labels you mentioned, like Ninja Tune and Warp Mean, they're still like real record labels.
Oh yeah.
And you found them via presumably, I don't know, like some kind of call marketing or what have you. So I mean, there's still a place for that, right? I mean.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I'm just saying this in the context of somebody that grew up in the suburbs of Chicago in the Midwest. Probably one of the most uncultured places you can be from. So nobody knows, like when I say the name Ninja Tune to people that still live where I'm from, they don't know what that is. So, but when you get in the city, and like in Chicago, Bonobo comes and plays, I've seen him on Tobin, I've seen Kid Koala, but where I was from, for me it was a big deal because I was like, I get to have this just for myself.
Right.
So, but yes, there is absolutely, they're all still around, they're all still doing really well. So, there. Well, thank you guys for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks. Awesome.